Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Food Wars Season 2 on Toonami. And I overall really enjoyed this season. There weren't any really kind of issues. We got some interesting backstories for certain characters and everything. But my only kind of big complaint for it is that it was like only 13 episodes, whereas the previous one had have like over 20. So I'm just like, wow, this is kind of shorter, and we have to wait longer for Toonami to have the licensing rights hashed out for the next few seasons. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Take your time because this just had more of the greatness of Food Wars. We got through the whole fall selection thing, and then had a kind of what I would say, not really a filler one, but it fills that kind of filler uh, kind of niche where it's like, okay, this is kind of getting us through and kind of getting us into the next kind of thing, except it actually has important things going on. It's kind of like a shorter arc to kind of tide us over and set us up for what's coming up next, instead of just with like filling time for anything. So we start this off and we're pretty much back into the fall selection, pretty much getting everybody knocked into the actual finals. We see Soma battling Alice, and we see Megumi dealing with her kind of stuff, and we get this other kind of character, Subaru, popping up, who is a real asshole and a really good villain. I was always kind of tense figuring out what's going to be going on with him, because he pretty much goads people into food wars and then takes like their most prized cooking utensil or whatnot and beats them at their own dish. He did this to Takumi and pretty much secured himself into getting to like the final rounds of the fall selection by pretty much doing a better dish than him. This of course sets Soma off, and he decides to declare food war on Subaru. Pretty much the stakes are: if Subaru wins, Soma will quit cooking forever. If Soma wins, he will get all of the cooking implements that Subaru has collected over the years, which is over like 100. And that was a really good battle kind of thing to see, because they do a really good job of a back and forth with this, or more so than usual kind of typical kind of shonen, where you always are trying to see how the hero or how the winner is going to achieve their victory in it. And I'm just like, yeah, all right. Seeing how he was able to take him out was pretty awesome. So then we're seeing that Akira, the spice guy, he's getting really up there in the ranks as one. You're thinking, okay, it's going to be Soma and him. But we get to the end and we see that Akira was fighting against Alice Nakari's usual kind of attendant dude, but whenever he gets in the kitchen, he gets really fired up and just goes completely hambo. So it was actually a three-way fight between these guys, and that was actually pretty cool. Of course, Soma and the attendant didn't win out. It was Akira that was given the win for the entire fall selection, and we see them kind of become frenemies as they're trying to understand each other's cooking styles. But when we got to that point, the judges were explaining that they were trying to find the student that pretty much could only make that dish. They're pretty much a dish that could just be representative of that student's cooking, pretty much their specialty. And seeing Soma understand that realization and be like, I want to find that for myself and figure that out, was really kind of cool, and setting him on the next kind of leg of his journey and understanding what is his specialty, what is his cooking style, because he has an interesting cooking style, but he hasn't found anything that's just particularly his yet. And I think that's an interesting goal to have for him, and I can't wait to see kind of how that pans out going forward. So we see them kind of dealing with everything. We've of course gotten backstories for all the different kind of characters. Alice Nakari's attendant guy was pretty interesting, as he's usually kind of hard ass in the kitchen, and they met each other at a very young age and had food wars constantly. Akira was rescued from the streets by June and shown all this stuff, and he wants to show that aromas and sense of smell are very important to cooking and use that as kind of his style. And I'm like, I'm really interested to see kind of how his stuff goes off. And just seeing them kind of at the end trying to figure out everything, and they're like tasting each other's dishes and coming up with all these kind of cooking things, was really kind of cool. And to see June, his mentor, being like, hey, this is actually really nice, because he's usually very kind of withdrawn and very focused on his one thing to the exclusion of all kind of else. And she's kind of liking that he's kind of getting friends, and they're not at the like friendliest of stage, but it'll be interesting to see how their friendship kind of like goes on through here. So that kind of sets us up for the last kind of bit where this thing is brought up, the stagiaire, where it's essentially like an internship role that is given to the first years as they go out and they have to leave marks on these kitchens and that they're brought into, and if they don't leave like a mark, they get shut out of the program. It's like, damn, okay. And I'm like, all right, let's kind of see how this works out. And it was really interesting to see how they were differently paired up, because we see Soma and Hisako, who is Aaron Inakri's attendant, and she was feeling kind of down about her defeat in, of course, the fall selection. And Soma just kind of cheering her up and being like, hey, no, you should aim to stand beside Erina, not behind her. And seeing all these different kind of characters in these different stagiaire kind of scenarios was kind of cool, because they get sent to like a family restaurant, and it was really kind of cool to see what was going on, because they're really desperate for help. And it's interesting to see how this whole restaurant kind of changed all around, because at first it was kind of a family place, and this is like the second generation dude dealing with it. And of course there was like a rail line put in, and now they get all these different kinds of people, and they've got this huge extensive menu, and they kind of mess up orders. And it's like, yeah, because you're not, that's the kind of advantage to a fast food place. If you're a restaurant and you really want to put time and effort in your cooking, and these people only have like at maximum maybe 20 minutes before their rail line pops up, they got to get there, they got to get in there, they got to get their food, they got to eat, and they got to get out in that time frame to catch their rail. It's not really effective. And seeing Soma and Hisako kind of deal with that and figure out and present the best kind of scenario for the dude, being like, listen, how do you want to run this place? And he's like, kind of like family eater. He's like, the best solution we got for you is to make this reservation only, because it's messing with their finances and everything, and the restaurant would be in jeopardy. And I liked how they presented it to the dude, and the dude and his staff is kind of like leery of it at first, but then when they actually start doing it and they see the regulars coming in, it's like, yeah, that actually is a great business decision for them to make, because it doesn't completely and utterly shut out the rail line people, because they could be on the rail, they could get off, they could walk around and be like, hey, okay, I can't pop in here now, but if I'm ever in the area again, I should make a reservation and check this out. That also makes sure that you don't screw over your locals. You always want to find a balance of people coming in, tourist kind of people, and your locals, because your locals will be, they're kind of at least weighted a little bit more heavily on a business decision like that, because they're the ones that'll probably support you the most. If they like you and they like the restaurant, and it's like, I'm going to eat there as often as I can, that's going to be your biggest kind of bet to make sure your restaurant survives. If you also do this kind of thing with the reservations, then people can come in as they please and just be like, okay, yeah. And then that takes the extra burden off the staff. I'm like, it's really kind of cool seeing the stagiaire getting into those kind of elements and just be like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm understanding this kind of stuff. So then we also see like Megumi's pairing up with Erina in this French kitchen, and seeing her kind of like, hey, I see that a lot of people have been, some people don't have enough gravy and some people have too much. Why don't you use a gravy boat so that way they've got just enough, and that way we don't have to like mess up around. And the head chef's like, whatever, no, screw that. Erina's like, no, listen to her. And then someone's coming in like, we need more gravy. It's like, God. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool to see Erina and Megumi, who you don't really see that often, interacting. Then we get to the last stagiaire for Soma's kind of arc, and of course they bring in Shinomiya, who we had seen in the previous season. Soma and Megumi go up against in a food war to make sure that Megumi could stay at Totsuki, and I'm like, okay, how's this gonna go? Soma, of course, has no hard feelings. He's like, the dude beat me, and I want to learn to be better. And the thing is, he's opening up a Tokyo branch of his Shino's restaurant. And we learn more about him as well, and how when he was little, his mother and his family went to this French restaurant, and looking back, he's like, it probably wasn't the best, but his mother really liked it, and he wants to do that French cooking, and wanted to come back to make sure that he was still within his roots with like that combination, where Soma wants to kind of tear himself down and get his own style. And it was interesting seeing how Shinomiya's restaurant is run, and seeing all the different kind of characters. And of course, these people are thinking Soma's going to be an uptight little bastard and think he's hot shit and everything, but no, he is that sponge that wants to learn everything. And I'm like, yeah, that really helped me kind of connect more with Soma. Not that I hadn't had any before, but it's like, yes, that's what I would do if I'm in there learning, going through, figuring out what's going on, really dedicating himself to it, and learning how to effectively go with this and like run this restaurant for this soft opening very well before they get into like a friends and family kind of thing. And it's cool to see, of course, Shinomiya's mom come in and be really proud of her son, and then they have a competition to get an item on the menu, and seeing Soma do his kind of thing that was kind of a riff on a bowl but with a quail and having risotto stuffed in it, and he doesn't win it outright. Shinomiya says it's not good enough, but he's like, let me show you how this would be good enough, and it is on the menu, and everybody's like, okay, that's pretty cool. So that kind of finishes out the arc that we've had with this season, setting up for the next part of everybody's coming back from their stagiaire, and Soma comes back to all of these food war challenges. And like someone immediately comes in the door, does it, he's like, yeah, alright, and showing that he wants to have as many food wars as possible to figure out what that style is of him, and push through, and to get that specialty and find that thing that he's looking for within himself. I'm like, alright, I'm up for that. My only thing was like, wow, I thought this would be more episodes. And I was like looking through and seeing that the episode orders fluctuate, so I don't mind that as long as the story is told, and that definitely was in this season. I don't feel like any extra added episodes were needed, or that there were too many episodes. It was just right. A thing about TV nowadays is it's usually kind of standardized to a certain length, but even though I was like, hey, this was over too quickly for me, I need some more, I'm like, it works. It just kind of works within the theme of the show, too, about the food and all that. So, if you like Food Wars, it's definitely more of it, and I would highly recommend it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and can't wait to see where more of this anime goes. So those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.